What's the best way to discipline an oppositional defiant teenager? Teens throw some really interesting challenges toward parents. By the end of this video, you'll have some specific strategies that you can apply immediately. Let's start here. Your teen is not your kid.
I've had people say to me, well, my kid would never do that. And I think, yeah, your 7-year-old kid probably wouldn't ever do that, but your 12 or 13-year-old kid did do that because they're a teen now. The way that they view the world, the way they view themselves, trying to become independent and kind of breaking away from you has caused them to become a very different person. And isn't that great news?
So it's not your kid. It is, however, your teen.
Yes.
And they are different animals.
It is a very different thing, yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. We could get into some of the development behind that, but I think it's mostly important to just understand we've got a different dynamic now. There are different developmental tasks that they're going through. Although it's interesting, have you noticed this, Vicki, where the same tasks that they go through at about age 2, they repeat at about age 12 or 13. Things like, I want to do it myself.
Do it my own way. Let me do it.
But they know that they aren't quite ready to do everything on their own, so they're still dependent on the parent. And that can be a really awkward stage for a lot of kids as they're transitioning into the teens. So let's keep that in mind and keep some empathy and understanding on board.
And I think maybe some curiosity and wonderment. So who is this new kid, right?
Right.
Be willing to just be curious and watch and recognize that it's a development. So maybe the anger that's frequent to come out or the selfishness, that does not mean that that's where they're going to land, but they're going through that kind of development, and just be curious as they're going through it.
That's a really great point. They are going through a lot themselves. There's also some grief that happens because this is not your kid. In fact, you don't have that kid anymore.
And you might kind of miss the little snuggles that you used to get. Or the kind, when they say, Mommy, I love you, or Mommy, you're my best friend. And right now they're like, I hate you. You ruined my life, right?
Right, which they don't actually mean. It's usually just a reaction to some of the stressors that they're going through. While we're on the topic of development, I think we need to understand that it's about stage, not age.
And we've said this so many times, so if you're ever confused, always just go back and look up that in our videos. You can get a really quick cheat sheet. Go ahead and download your own copy because this is really helpful. We're going to just briefly go through it right now. Stage 1 is the child is not cooperating. They're concerned about getting what they want when they want it at the very moment and not really thinking about other people's part in the world or what their concerns or feelings might be.
If the title caught your attention, oppositional and defiant behavior is stage 1.
That is very immature because you're just self-focused and not willing to cooperate.
Now, stage 2 is where they are cooperating with you. In fact, that's the dividing line between stage 1 and 2.
And don't get cooperation confused with a great attitude. You can cooperate with a good attitude and you can still cooperate with kind of a crummy, difficult attitude, because that's what we're going to find a lot of times with our teenagers is that they get that if they cooperate, things are better for them, but they're not going to enjoy it, and they're going to make sure you don't enjoy it while they do it.
But that cooperation is the key.
It is the key.
And then in stage 3, it's all about personal responsibility, taking initiative, doing the right things for the right reasons.
Right.
And rarely do we have parents contacting us complaining about stage 3 because the kids are basically taking care of business.
Although I will say that if you are insisting on thinking of your child as a kid and they've gone to teenage, this isn't the defiant child, but I will say that I've seen some parents who are struggling to let their child, who has shown that they're mature enough and are taking an initiative and they're cooperating, they resist letting them make their own choices and include taking responsibility for some of their own mistakes. And so it is still something to consider, but that's probably not what we're talking about with a defiant child at this point.
There can be frustration on either side, on the parent side or on the teenager's side, if there's a mismatch between the control and the maturity. And that's why those stages are so important to understand. Again, just go to the URL on the screen, drpauljenkins.com/stages. We'll put that in your hands so that you can have access to that most important model. Let's get some practical strategies on board because like we acknowledged earlier, it can be enormously frustrating to you as a parent if your teenager is being oppositional and defiant. So strategy number 1, keep calm.
Yeah. And do whatever it takes for you to figure out how to bring your own affect into a calm way, because have you noticed that your teenagers are really good at drawing you into drama?
Yeah.
They're really good at it. They say just the right thing that just is going to get you fired up. So you want to be able to learn how to be calm.
I've learned through almost 3 decades now of clinical experience that whoever is the most upset has the problem.
Yeah.
And so if it's you, well, do the math. Okay, so we want to calm down. A smiling parent usually equals a thinking teenager. And if you keep that in mind, do what you need to take care of you. It might mean that you do a little breathing. One thing that'll help with this too is to push the pause button in your own mind if you need to.
I was going to say, a lot of the times our teenagers approach us in a way that is so urgent. Everything is so urgent. Now, it may very well be important, and even when you find out some things that maybe are going on in their life and have been going on for a couple months, and you just become aware of it, and you think it feels super urgent, but it's really more important than urgent. And I think that urgency, the being drawn into this, acting it really urgently, takes from our calm. And so if you can kind of get that in your mind, it's like, just ask yourself, how, can I balance the urgency and the importance of this? Take a deep breath.
A few phrases that you can run through your head. In addition to some breathing, you can say, I've got this. Or you can say, I'll figure this out. Because everything's figure-outable, come back to the channel. Type in whatever problem it is you're having, and I bet you're going to find something because we have a lot of videos to support you here. One of the reasons why it's so important to stay calm is because you need to do some thinking.
Right.
And that will lead us right into the next strategy. Give 2 choices. This is strategy number 2. Give 2 choices.
One of which you control.
Yes.
And that's your default choice.
Now, what would that mean for a teenager? When, Vicki, you said that one of these you control, meaning you control the consequences around this particular choice. Before we get into an example about that, think versus fight. Every interaction we have with our kids is going to invite them to do one or the other.
And I think it's especially true of a defiant teenager.
And it's true of the parents too, because you're either going to be thinking or fighting. And if you're all coming in hot, probably you're going to invite your teen to fight with you instead of to think. We want you to do the thinking first. Okay, I know it's not fair, but as a parent, you get to take responsibility for this. You do the thinking first and come up with 2 choices, one of which does not require cooperation.
One of the hot topics a lot of times is cell phone use. And that's one of the places that comes, there's a lot of issues for parents and their teens. And if you have a very strict rule, maybe about phones off at 10 o'clock, and your child is breaking that rule over and over, just recognize, you can say, you can either turn off your phone and put it on the charger, maybe the charger's in the family room or in your bedroom or whatever. You can do that, or I will cut all Wi-Fi and service at certain hours. And then, so that one is the one you control. And if they say, that's stupid, I'm not going to turn it off at 10, you say, fine, I'll take care of it. That's how you are in charge of one of the outcomes, and that
Yes.
becomes your default if they do not choose the one where they get to be in charge. And you know what, there
Yes.
might, well, this is the kid, not the defiant kid. I like to say a more responsible kid might say, yeah, Mom, go ahead and turn it off at 10 because I can't seem to control it. But that's not the,
Actually, I've interacted with teenagers
yeah.
who do not trust themselves to keep that limit, and that's what they choose.
Right.
They say, well, you better take it from me then, because I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you're more mature, we can have this conversation again. I like the way that you set that up, Vicki, because the choices are, look, you can do this or you can do that. And the that is usually, or I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
It's like the two choices are always you cooperate and help solve this problem or not.
Right.
And when you think about it that way, it makes more sense what those choices could be. Because the alternative is something that I control 100%. I don't need your input on that. And it's an available option. You know, one of the things I like about strategy 2, Vicky, is that it helps us to do strategy 1, to be more calm.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Because if you've got an alternative that doesn't require their cooperation, you don't have to get all hot and bothered and upset about
Right.
everything. You can remain calm, and then that allows you to do number 3. So strategy number 3 is to be kind and firm.
Not kind of firm, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes we waffle on our ability to enforce that second choice.
You know, I think one of the things that's really hard about teenagers is they're kind of mini adults, right? And you get this really exciting thought
Baby
about
adults.
Yeah, this idea about being their friend, and you know, I think that sometimes we need to set that goal as a secondary goal, especially during some of these times that we are firm, we're very kind, and we're very firm, and we're willing to stand and weather the storm, that putting some of those limits and those choices, and then that they're going to come. Just be aware, accept them, and just stay kind and stay firm.
What if your goal were to be friendly instead of being their friend?
Yeah, that's the kind part.
Be kind and firm.
What a great lesson for them to learn as a teenager, that you can step forward in a kind way in a rough situation. We're not getting that modeled for us in the world right now.
Right.
That you can handle disagreements or discontent in a kind and firm way, staying firm to your beliefs while being kind. That's not being modeled. So what a great idea to have that modeled at home from you.
This is the best place for them to learn it. And as you transition from the teenage years into the adult years, you don't have as much control,
Right.
and your parenting responsibilities shift. We've got other videos about all
Right.
of that. But let's postpone that need to be liked or to be their friend until maybe a little later on. Be friendly, be kind, and be firm. You're still the parent. Hey, thanks for jumping in on this particular video. If you're ready to get serious about your parenting, we have a playlist right here on the channel, the Parenting Power Up video series. We've got you covered on all things parenting. Cue that up and go see some of those videos next.